Hi, how are you, everyone? Thank you for joining. I see you, Josh, joining today. Yeah. Ron, how are you today? 2 days in a row. This is pretty impressive. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So we'll see if we have a bit more people joining later in this Equalistars event where we showcase and demo what's been done by the teams for the waste.
Watching them.
Thank you very much for joining this Equalithon, this Equalistars pitching event. So the goal of this call now is to demo your solutions and to enable you to share them with either Wells Fargo, who sponsored the event, or the nonprofit we're trying to support, the Sanitation Foundation from New York City. Uh, I'm just going to talk a little bit more about equalitons in general. So, equalitons are events to engage people around corporate social responsibility and social impact generally, and innovation. So, we support nonprofits so that they can scale their impact. We have a community of technologists and innovators to support this and to, support their own skills, upskill, prove to potential employers, and show what they can do while they connect with other participants. And we have a community of mentors brought to us by sponsoring organizations or other partnering organizations who want to impact the world, drive with their passion, experience diversity and inclusion, or find more purpose, in their jobs, their companies, learn, innovate, etc. So we're trying to combine these three different aspects into events that we call Equalithons that you've experienced last week. And last week was the Equalithon for waste impact, waste management with the Sanitation Foundation. So, very much for joining. I'd really like if you could present a little bit more about what you do at the Sanitation Foundation and the Sanitation Foundation purpose generally.
Yeah, absolutely. So we at the Sanitation Foundation, we are the official nonprofit partner of the Department of Sanitation in New York City. And our mission is twofold. We really work to celebrate the essential sanitation workforce that is, working tirelessly to keep New York City clean and healthy. And then the other aspect of our mission is we're really working to advance the city's zero waste agenda. And a lot of what that looks like is we do a multitude of different volunteer program opportunities. We also work to provide public outreach and education for like composting initiatives. We do some youth education, and then a lot of other opportunities as well. And we will oftentimes work with corporate groups to kind of solicit donations that we can then use to funnel into a lot of community programming as well. So just to give you a little bit of background on kind of some of the challenges that we're facing, in New York City, there are multiple local neighborhood cleanup groups that play a really important a role in community cleanup efforts. And so in the sense that we are kind of a more established nonprofit that's working both with the Department of Sanitation, we kind of act as like a liaison between these grassroots community groups. And many of them started in 2020 during the pandemic as a way to really just get outside and to engage community members, especially as they were, people are spending more time at home and seeing issues with chronic litter in their neighborhoods. And these groups play a vital role in keeping the city clean. And we really want to be able to do more as a foundation to support these efforts because they really, again, help us be able to support this work and really kind of elevate the work of the sanitation workforce. And so we just did a recent opportunity assessment to better understand the needs of these community groups that exist and the potential role of really helping to support them and help them to grow. And so just to give a little bit more specificity to the challenges that we're looking to address, we, from the needs assessment and some focus groups we did with them, we discovered that a development of like a centralized database system for community organizers with training and resource guides and reporting functionality to help collect data on the amount of litter that these groups collect at their various events, as well as like downloadable outreach material and information on grants would all be incredibly helpful. And then also creating a streamlined process for navigating the Department of Sanitation and other city agencies' websites that all kind of play into getting the permitting or tools necessary to host their events. And then the department has a tool loan program for these groups, but just one of the areas of opportunity was just being able to expand that and make that a little bit more accessible. And then the third point was really developing a centralized system for these groups to be able to communicate with each other, and then also promote some of those cleanups throughout the city so that they're able to draw from a wider array of volunteers. And then I think the only other thing I was going to mention is just that there's a lot of broader implications for a development of a project like this. We really feel like this is, not specifically unique to New York. This is something that could be built on for other cities, and also would just really allow for other grassroots groups that maybe don't exist right now in certain neighborhoods to be able to develop as they have this whole network to be able to connect into, and just a lot more resources at their disposal.
Wow, what an impact that we can have here. I'm really looking forward to see what the teams came up with. I just would like to maybe share a word by Wells Fargo supporting this this whole initiative. So I'm going to share my screen, and specifically one of the applications to be able to share what Chris from Wells Fargo wanted to share with us. Can you hear anything? Okay.
I am Christopher Johnson. I lead up the product and innovation work for the Small Business Growth Philanthropy team within the Wells Fargo Foundation. In that role, I'm essentially trying to find the intersection between our philanthropic work and then opportunities to develop new products and services to better serve our small customers within the bank. The role of Small Business Growth Philanthropy, it's a separate group set up within the foundation, specifically to look at these kind of larger national or innovative programs to help advance opportunities and access to capital, specifically for small businesses. Our motivation in sponsoring the Equalithon is really based on the fact that we see sustainability as a core driver for small business growth. We really want to support small businesses that are active in the space because, one, it's important for the environment and to advance energy transition, but also just because we think there's real opportunity in the area, and it's one area that we think we can really help small businesses grow and thrive. From the innovation perspective, one of the areas that we're looking to make investments is in new technology, and specifically technology that either helps make current processes more efficient or could scale good ideas. So again, I think this is a great opportunity here for the Equalithon, is that we're coming up with these ideas that are innovative and I think really forward thinking, but maybe haven't been tested yet. So we really want to make the investment to allow those to kind of come to the surface and then actually have them kind of deployed in the real world, and then hopefully are able to scale up the impact from there. So first and foremost, we just like to say thank you to the teams that participated. It obviously wouldn't be possible without their dedication and expertise. We're just really excited to see the ideas that come out of it. I think from Wells Fargo's perspective, and especially the Small Business Growth Philanthropy Group's perspective, we really think that good ideas don't necessarily come from the already established and big players. We think it's good to kind of go out to the communities that are on the ground because they're closest to the overall impacts or kind of the consequences of the issues that are out there. So we're happy to see kind of the different creative ideas that come out of this. And then again, we're really excited to see if there's an opportunity to deploy them in the real world and see if we can scale up from there. We're happy to be a part of the overall process. We're really excited to have the New York Sanitation Foundation involved as a partner. And again, just seeing if there's some good ideas that will come out of this, and hopefully some new small businesses that will hopefully result.
All right, so I hope you could hear. For some reason, I couldn't really share the sound as is, so it might have come through my my mic. Anyway, I think the message was relatively clear, and they would like, the foundation is here to support the small businesses and innovation, basically. So there's different ideas that were supported through how we came up with this Equalithon, which is 2 events that we organized before the Equalithon, before we actually had the sprint itself. And this was what we called Ideathon. Through the first Ideathon, we had a few environment activists that joined and shared ideas and shared their networks. So in the second Ideathon, we actually could connect with you at the Sanitation Foundation and with other partners, Educative and more. And we created this community this way by people sharing the news to each other. So it's really community-based, grassroots, etc. And there's different ideas that we had that were really aligned to what you came up with at the Sanitation Foundation through another grassroots effort that you had led. So it's really funny to see how things converged. And so the specific challenge that we solved for you, I mean, we'll see if it's solved or not, but at least we tried. This is exactly what a few people suggested we do, except the scope was maybe a little bit less ambitious, because we really wanted to reshape how waste management could occur. And what you came up with was more about the street cleaning by volunteers. So it's really great because it was less ambitious and more doable, and there's already people who can do that you can leverage. So in terms of impact, I can see hundreds of volunteers, or maybe more in New York, maybe thousands of volunteers getting the profit of this pilot and then app that Fargo says they'd like to keep supporting in the future. And then I see more cities piloting this, and maybe then in terms of impact for everyday life in New York and other cities, it's going to touch millions of people. So super exciting. And I'd really love to see also how we can keep going by getting more innovation in the mix. Innovative startups in the scope of waste management, innovative startups in tech, what can they do to support this application? So if this initiative goes on, we're going to try to go to the next level with the actual application, functional application development beyond the website or initial pilots that have been developed now. So quite exciting, and thank you very much for staying with us now and demoing your application. So we've got a few teams who managed to develop a solution for you, and I'd like to invite maybe someone from team 1 to share your screen. I believe that Nathan, it was your team.
Yes, I believe that is me.
Thank you so much for being there. And would you like to introduce yourself? Don't hesitate to, you've participated in a few Equalithons, Nate. I think you're really a great designer, a great team lead, doing all that remotely, communicating with people remotely as we do during Equalithons is not easy. Communicating with the Sanitation Foundation and understanding the requirement is not easy. So please don't hesitate to really sell it yourself. And I hope this can help, in your career in the future.
Yeah, definitely. So this was the second Equalithon that I was a part of. The first one was the last one that we had the pitching event for yesterday. But this one, I really had more time to dedicate to it. So I was actually happy to be able to work with a team of developers and with our mentor to kind of get something working for you guys. But yeah, I guess I'll just jump into that here. So obviously my name is Nate. I worked with team 1. And throughout our process here, During this presentation, I'll just give you a brief introduction of my teammates and who we were, talk a little bit about our project goals, specifically what we wanted to work on. With having like a certain restriction on time, we obviously couldn't just develop everything. So we wanted to focus on a few certain aspects of this and really focus on those. So we'll talk about some of the research and the insight that went into these design solutions and the potential impact and functionality from these. So here's my team. We had 2 developers, Orwe and Danish. Our mentor was Beatriz. She's also a UX designer and a product designer. And then David and I were on the team as user experience designers. So looking at the goal, what we wanted to accomplish here was really 3 different things. We thought that most importantly, it was important for you guys to have your volunteer application form digital, so they can just fill that out online instead of having to go through the email link and send you guys a message and have that back and forth. So we wanted to digitize that and make that easily accessible for them. We also wanted to create a real-time data capture form that's connected to a cleanup report that we had developed as well. And then also design a small calendar viewport for users to see upcoming events and volunteer events that are happening soon. Like you mentioned, you wanted to kind of have the public aware of what's happening so they can also jump in and volunteer as well. So getting into a little bit of the research that we did, in the beginning, David took it upon himself to interview a couple of volunteers from different organizations right away, just to kind of get their insight into some of the problems that they experience when they're trying to organize bigger events with a lot of people getting involved and stuff. So a few of the key insights that came out of that was just the whole process of organizing an event can be complex and time consuming. So hopefully moving forward with some of the things that we developed, it would just make that process easier with signing up, getting all the information out there, and then also requesting tools too. So some of the people that he talked to were talking about, like, if they were applying for assistance from the Department of Sanitation, they would want an easy way to request tools and resources from them to help make their efforts a little easier. And then also that just like cleanup after the events can be difficult depending on how much they have collected. So I think you mentioned that the Sanitation Foundation will come and pick it up from a location if they specify that. So that's something that we also made available to them. The next part of the research here was doing a little bit of market analysis, doing some comparative things. We looked at a few different websites just to kind of see how they were going about some of these revisions that we wanted to make. So the first one here is Plastic Tide. So on their website, they do a really good job of kind of showcasing specific numbers and data metrics pertaining to the work that they do. So that was really interesting to kind of get a little inspiration for how we might show some of the data that was captured from these cleanup reports regarding the efforts that your volunteer groups are doing. The next one was, we looked at the Trevor Project. This website makes it very easy for volunteers to come and kind of read about some of the initiatives that they're a part of. And they also allow users to apply directly on their website. So this was a really good way to kind of visualize how we could set up that application process and make that digital. And the last one here is the Nature Conservancy. So on their website, they have, I guess you could call it the calendar viewport, but they make it accessible for users to come onto their website and see different volunteer events that are happening in the future, so they can read up on it and see what's happening and join if they want to. Here we got a little visual of just some of the user flows that we might encounter with these new additions. So the Sanitation Foundation website already has that volunteer page, so that was already set up for us. But then we have the new flow here, Flow 2, where anybody that's visiting the page can just scroll down to the section where it's talking about the events that are happening in the future, so they can read up on those and get involved if they would like to. And then the first flow is just that volunteer sign up. So upon completion of the application, there would be a verification email sent to the organizer or organizers if there's multiple. And within that would contain a link to the cleanup report. So after an event is finished, an organizer of the event would be able to submit all the information regarding the cleanup efforts, and then that would be sent straight to Sanitation Foundation for that real-time data capture. Let's take a look at some of the design solutions here. So I don't have any coding abilities, so that's not really my thing, but I built some designs in Figma to hand off to the developers, and they were working on developing the website for you. So we'll look into the volunteer application form, taking that from the PDF to putting it on the website, accessing upcoming events and making that calendar viewport, and then also just showcasing those data metrics. So we had been supplied your PDF version, and we decided to take that and kind of break it down into a step-by-step process. Usually when you're dealing with a larger form like this, it's better to kind of break that up on the website. So that kind of reduces that initial cognitive load for the user. It makes it a little less intimidating if they don't have to scroll through a giant web page. So kind of broke that up step by step, gave them some breadcrumbs at the top too to kind of see where they're at in the process and when they're going to finish. Taking a look at the volunteer webpage, the Organize Today section was already there, but previously that was just linked out to an email where the organizer would have to communicate back and forth with Sanitation Foundation. So we were just going to utilize this to link straight out to the application form. And then right below that is showcasing the data metrics pertaining to upcoming or past events that have happened and volunteer groups that have been a part of this. And then below that is where anybody that comes to the website can see those upcoming events. Some of the potential impact of these new features obviously would be just to make that registration process and volunteer application form much easier. Instead of having to go back and forth and communicate with people to get the PDF or the paper version, you can just do it all online. Visitors are also able now to view those upcoming volunteer events and stay up to date with what's happening and volunteer when they can. And then also this will give Sanitation Foundation an easy way to kind of showcase the data of past volunteer events. Okay, so I'll kind of walk you through the prototype that I had created. So when a user comes to the Sanitation Foundation website, there is the Get Involved tab and then the volunteer page, which is here. So it looks very similar. We didn't change much besides we just added the data metrics and then the calendar viewport here for the upcoming events. And then with the Organize Today tab, an organizer would be linked straight to that application. So this is just the step-by-step, starting off with agreeing to the terms and conditions that were in the PDF version and then going through the rest of the application form. So that's pretty straightforward. At the end of the application, we give them the option here to consent yes or no to being shared publicly. I think that was something that was pretty important to you. Obviously, if somebody wants to stay private, that's pretty important as well. So, and also if they're not requiring any tools, it's easy just to check the box here and say we don't need anything. But upon completion, there would be a verification email sent to the organizer or organizers, and they will be instructed, I guess, to come back to that and fill out the data collection form upon completion of the event. And this is kind of where they can put their information back in, so the numbers are tied to their group. So I think you guys really wanted to know the number of bags collected, the number of volunteers, and then any before and after pictures. So we have the options here for that as well. And then unfortunately, I don't have a developer here to go through the other stuff, but they do have a website started, which looks something like this. But essentially it's the same thing that I just showed you. And I wish that they were here to kind of go a little more in depth with the coding process of it, because I know that they were talking about linking out that data capture form to some sort of, I think it was Airtable is what they were using for that data capture. And then that would be something that you could just easily pull those numbers from and put on the website to showcase the volunteer efforts that way. But so this is there. And that is all I have for you.
Well, sounds good. Thank you so much. Katharine, any feedback or questions you might have?
Yeah, I was going to say, looks incredible. So thank you so much for all of your hard work on this. I think the one thing especially that stands out to me is the opportunity to really like visualize the data and the impact. And right now, as you had mentioned, one of our challenges is there's not really a great way for groups that aren't necessarily like working with us directly to plan cleanups to report back that data on their impact. And so we just don't have a concept of what this looks like across the city. And so having that centralized database would be an incredible asset and just really helpful as we, look to better understand where the cleanups are happening, where the highest need is for additional services and support. So we really, really appreciate that.
All right, sounds great. Yeah, maybe let's leverage some of you here. Ron, since you're here, Ron Tenhove is a mentor of Equalithons that really supports the teams very frequently. So thank you for your your support here. You're a software architect at PTC, is that correct?
I'm a site reliability engineer right now, but I've done software architecture and all kinds of different things. But on the back end, I don't normally do much on the front end with the web application.
Okay, got it.
So it's always wonderful to see the design, like we saw right now is just the thought that went into the design, and then the execution, putting it all together. In a very short period of time. I'm always impressed with that.
Okay, would you like to present just PTC's product so we understand, the impact that you may have on these solutions, and then I have another question for you.
PTC's main products are all related to computer-aided design, but that's pretty broad now because we're taking all sorts of things that are designed digitally and turning them into things that are in the real world. So I work for the Onshape division of PTC. So we have computer-aided design in your web browser or on your phone. It really allows anyone to start designing things, and you can 3D print them or send them out to be made or just use them in the digital world. It's amazing what people do. They design fun things. We have one customer designing rockets, literally. Everything from the rocket itself, the engines, all the associated avionics, all using PTC tools. And it's kind of crazy to think we're going to be sending things into space.
Yeah, it's really enabling companies to innovate. And PTC has also interesting products for related to IoT and to augmented reality. And so within augmented reality, there are, and I know it's not exactly your the kind of solutions that you're working on, but let's maybe dream a bit for the next iteration of this application. In this solution, there's data capture from the volunteers sent to the DSNY. Right now it's just information typed in, I believe. How could image recognition, I know that there's an engine for that within the augmented reality product. Can we imagine an image recognition support, as part of this solution that would enable the volunteers using the app to submit automatically the category and size of the trash that they pick up to the DSNY? Like, take a picture, the picture is analyzed by an image recognition engine, and then information is automatically understood from that picture. Do you see that as a possible thing?
There's a lot of interesting things in open source right now in manipulating images and doing recognition of things within images that are of interest. And so I think that's actually would be quite doable these days without a lot of effort.
Even without a lot of effort,
it's amazing what open source provides these days. So
wow, with a lot of documentation, I'm sure. Well, if you have any resource that you're aware of, please don't hesitate to share it with the teams, and I can, or with me, and I can share that with the teams later on. maybe if we want to move on to team 3, I believe that team 2 actually did not. They were active, but they did not finalize something. So out of 5 teams, we have 2 teams finalizing something this time. Just to tell you about the combativity and just spirit of achievement that finalists have. So anyone from team 3 wanted to share your screen and show us the demo?
Sure. Hi, Hugo. This is Chris. Let me share my screen.
Chris, you're a veteran of Equalithons as well. Anyone else from your team here?
Marilee, our developer, she's listening, but she's, yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. And, you know, I think great job to name, I think very similar to our solutions. So let's see. So the team composed of 3 designers, or 3 designers and 1 developer. You know, I think this is really a team effort. I think that the team in the beginning was like, man, this is a very ambitious assignment to do, but we were able to get it done. So one of the key things we decided the problem was, we really wanted to help digitize the volunteer process and reduce the stress on the administration level. So we wanted to, some of the key things, we wanted to make that the process was easy and efficient, and made sense for the organizers and the volunteers. We also were trying to figure out, how to make the process easily informative for volunteers to see the results of the events, and also want to get involved with future volunteer events. And lastly, just we didn't want to make it too complicated for the users or the volunteers to navigate the process. So we had to come up with a navigation process for the solution. And let's see. So I think one of the challenges that our team came across was nobody really had any experience about database. I really think that Airtable does a great job of providing a free cost database. And the Airtable has many features that the Sanitation Foundation, once you use the data from the Airtable, you can use the data to use like a map, or they call it, I call it ArcGIS or GIS map of all the various cleanups. So Airtable allows you to do that. There's a lot of features that Airtable can do. So one of the things, I think there was a particular form that was called, I think, the Toulon form, and it was a PDF, and that PDF form was actually it had many fields or fields on that form, which we had to help the team to kind of understand and break down and separate, as Nate had pointed out in his presentation, that there was many process going on in that form. And once you kind of were able to divide that, it made sense in how to create the database. So in the database, there's one database for the cleanup team. There's also a database for the volunteers to sign up. And yeah, so those are the main tables. And then once you have those tables set up, then it's like the calendar is basically a visual picture of the lists of all the cleanups that are available, and then the volunteers can then pick from that calendar view, and then can pick from that cleanup event table. So if you're not familiar with Airtable, this is what Airtable looks like. Very easy. And you know, this is the database. This is what you create. So yeah, so you can see kind of a demo of the. So here's one of the one of the ideas that the inspiration we were thinking of was kind of like having you know, the various cleanup teams, and I think this is something they talked about on the I think it was her name, Jenny, talked about having, you know, like a merit, like after you collect so many bags, right, the team would get like a badge, right? So we kind of thought about this idea, you know, having like teams be called a particular name, and then you can see like how many bags they collected. So kind of a fun little competition. Now this picture is not a real picture of what the database is, but this is something we would like to maybe see in the future. So here's kind of the snapshots of our final product, and I can go into the let's see. So here is it was pretty, you know, we pretty much saw that the Sanitation Foundation, you know, their website was already completed on Squarespace. So you know, we didn't have to change any of the style. We just you know, continued that. So here we wanted to you know, showcase, right? You want to showcase the data, the outcomes of the cleanups collected. So that's why we emphasize this. And so then down here we have the actually we don't really have a tool on form, because we actually we took apart that tool on form and broke it down into a couple different processes. So the first thing would be the cleanup organizer would come and they would read the instructions on you know, what to do. So this is the instructions on the cleanup. The first step they would do is they would have to fill out you know, create a cleanup group. So this is the cleanup group application. So here, type in the name, and I kind of thought, well, it'd be nice, you know, just they have to pick a logo for their team. So you have to pick a picture, then you enter their name, you know, cell number. This is all from the form that was provided to us. You hit submit, goes into the database. Then the next step is that they would pick a cleanup event. So here is, or they would create a cleanup event, right? So they're going to here. So we put down from the form, right? So you put down the street where it's cleaning up, And then we also put down how many bags they think, or the location where they're going to pick up the bags, how many. And we also added that we thought that, when you're requesting tools, that this is probably the point you would probably ask that question. So we added it here. And we hit submit. And we have 2 forms because it looked like you wanted a cleanup events, an option where they would not post it on the calendar. So if they don't want to consent, they would just fill out information for to not have it. Okay, and then once they do that, let's see. Oh, not that. Then the next thing is the cleanup event. So once they've done their cleanup event, then they would click here. And this is where they would, so they're going to put in the name of the event. We also put down, we wanted people to take pictures of their post cleanup number of bags, and then you hit submit. It goes in the database. And oh, forgot, sorry. Yeah, so that the part I forgot was, so you got to have the volunteers. So the volunteers, right? A volunteer would go here and say, hey, I'm interested in signing up, right? So they go here. And so this is the calendar that is showing after the cleanup event and the team has created their cleanup event, right? So basically, this is the view calendar of those events, right? So you would say, okay, I want to join the Beach Cleanup America happening on 18th. So then the volunteer would click to volunteer. They would pick, so they have to know the name of the event. Pick there, enter their information, and hit submit. And then the database, it would, is only accessible to whoever can get it. Now the Airtable has a lot of automatic features. You can create, you can send emails of that. So
yeah, I see there's automations that enable the database, enable Airtable to send emails after people have registered to an event, for instance, so they have the details of the event, etc. Right?
yep.
Yeah, that sounds good. Do you have any final words to conclude your demo?
That is it.
That is it. Well, great. So I think that is, I want to open to your comments, Katharine, and feedback or questions you might have to the team.
Yeah, I also thought this would have like a lot of really helpful features for our needs. I really like the competition feature. I think that would be something that would be very favorable amongst the different community groups. And then I also really liked how with the tool loan application, you were able to break it into 2 different sections. I think that's really helpful and a key point of that whole process, or I guess the application for organizers and everything, because there are certain things that would be more geared towards a group that's organizing versus folks that just really want to get involved. I had the one question that came to mind was with the reporting feature, once a cleanup has already happened, is there a way that you think that could be somewhat automated so that the cleanup organizers don't have to remember to come back to the site to fill it out, more so that they would get an alert or a reminder that they needed to submit that information?
I tried to study Airtable. I think someone manually has to click a button. I don't think Airtable is that sophisticated to do that. So I don't think I studied it or found that it can I think one of the issues is that the database it's creating a list of all the volunteers into one list, and so you have to sort the list and by events, and then you can contact that group of volunteers. So that is one step. I mean, maybe Airtable, I know Airtable can create these very powerful functions, but I've not, I don't think I got that far. So I'm gonna say no.
That makes
Airtable
sense.
have a lot of capabilities to create a fully functional application where you can track what users are doing. It's not like an application where you have sign in, sign up, etc. So it's just a bunch of tables that you need to manually link together usually, unless you add some code. But so it's good for a pilot. It's not good for scaling when you have hundreds of different organizations or local streets that want to do cleanup. That's going to be a little bit more challenging, I believe. But at least to test with the first dozens, it should work.
Yeah, I was going to say, I really appreciate you all bringing like the cost consideration into it. Being a nonprofit, I think that's something that is, especially with like in a pilot scale, like really helpful for us to be able to like manage those. So I think that the Airtable component of both projects and just the way you've laid it out is really, really useful and really thoughtful.
Josh, Josh Repair is here with us, and Josh works with the Rensselaer Institute. I'd like to have to pick up your brains on what you saw and see, for instance, knowing that you've worked on IoT solutions in the past. When you see this, is there anything that you believe IoT technologies could support the process with, or do you know any IoT startup in the space of waste management that could be useful to leverage?
Well, I have to confess, Hugh, it's Dennis Sheldon, our director, should be here to talk about that. And that's not. I'm more of materials and fabrication, so I'm interested in the actual stuff of waste. I had some comments, but I don't think I can say too much about IoT.
All right. So if you have comments, would you like to give them?
Sure. Yeah. No. I wonder about teams like block associations. I think that would be a really interesting way to kind of take these tools to the next level, where maybe it's not so much about like a one-time sign up, but something which has to happen regularly, because there's so much of an issue like that. And that's a great sort of very active local kind of structure that might have like kind of own one of these tools. Like it's this blocks association tool for organizing around cleaning up. I think a lot of people would find that be very useful. So it's like, I think the really important question here is like, who's the team? And how would they, and what's their use case there? How could that grow it?
Yeah, it sounds. I don't know if Katharine, you want to react to that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that is a key feature, because there's, there are block associations that will occasionally do cleanups, but we don't have great data on, all of kind of who comprises a lot of these teams. And I think that would be a great vehicle to be able to engage a lot of those associations. Sometimes they'll reach out, with interest in cleanups. And if this was all in place, it would make that process a lot more accessible for them, especially if there was the other aspects of like recruiting volunteers and things, because those are some definite challenges for groups that aren't quite as established as like cleanup organizations themselves. So I think that is a really key point to really identify and like look at the different audience targets that we could use this for.
I'm just looking at the ideas that we had during the Ideathons, and to go beyond the solutions that we developed during this specific Equalithon. There were really interesting ideas that, if you know startups or SMBs in the space, could interest them. So it's an open call for people to let us know how to keep going with our impact and waste management. So we had ideas about real-time trash tracking, so that an application that would go to the next level compared to the pilots that have been made. Really an app to connect consumers or inhabitants of a city to intermediate pickers that would like those who pick cans or bottles or all these kind of things, or furniture, things that can be picked up and are often not and stay very for a long time or somewhat long time on the sidewalk. An application that would connect also restaurants, supermarkets to these kind of nonprofits or for-profit picking up organizations, and quantify and validate the kind of trash, quantify and connect this data to the DSNY or city's organization for waste management. That could be really an interesting idea for startups and SMBs. We had other ideas about governance and recommendations, or even consulting for leading other cities than NYC to act against plastic bags. All this story about NYC stopping the plastic bags in shops, corner stores, etc. There's probably a whole story to be made out of this and enable other cities to pilot this. So there's probably a lot of consultancy ideas to leverage from there. Maybe just an application to inform better local governments to also make it faster for them to develop these kind of regulations. We were thinking about a marketing tool as well, marketing tool for waste management nonprofits or startups to be more visible by consumers, so that the inhabitants of cities could find them. Something like Alexa, Google, or Siri chatbots guiding users to find right resources, to find right nonprofit. So it could be a next step actually for your solution here to drive people through voice recognition, etc., to the right picking team or the right nonprofit, etc. So there's a lot of ideas that were had that could enable us to keep going. And I really would love to see a few startups or established companies addressing these issues and recommending how to address these issues. So if you know any, please let us know. And with that, I'd like to, before we conclude this call, and it was really nice to see you all here, I'd like to have your votes for the team that had the best pitch. And let's see, I'm gonna open the poll here. It says entitled poll, but the first question is named best pitch today. So you have the choice between team 1 and team 3, and you should see that pop up on your screen. You can even vote for your own team, but we ask that you stay fair if possible. So we're gonna end up the poll in just a few seconds. 3, 2, 1. We have a tie, which is not the best option. Well, I think you can just, the end goal of this poll is to know who had the best pitch and have that as a badge in your certificates, so you can all have that badge. So this is great, actually, great news for everyone. All right. It was very nice being with you tonight. I hope that, we can keep, making these pilots a little bit better and how they look like, and really more importantly, implement them for you, Sanitation Foundation, to use, drive the impact there, and keep going with your project. So We'll keep in touch for that. Anyone, a last word?
Just want to say thank you all for working on these projects for us. We really sincerely appreciate it, and really appreciate the opportunity to work with Steam and you, Hugo, and Wells Fargo support too. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Hope to be helpful and support you. Have a good day, everyone. Goodbye.